Okay, boom, Jonathan Fibonojji. You know, I wanted to do kind of a final preliminary video. Is that even a word? I mean, is that a word? Let's turn some Jesus music on. You know, sometimes when there you go, boom. I love this song. Okay, on this channel, I don't know how long you've been following me, Jonathan Fibonojji. It's kind of a funny on an important poem. Now, I'm doing a documentary on things that I think are important. And you know, basically documentaries are about really somebody showcasing something awesome or something awesomely terrible. Check this out. San Francisco, Jonathan Fibonojji. Jonathan Fibonojji. Jonathan Fibonojji. How do you spell it? Just like the normal way. San Francisco. Okay, here you go. And I think I'm comfortable calling myself a Christian comic, even though I don't like the idea, or I really didn't like the way Christian comics were represented. But I am a Christian. I love Jesus. Tons of Jesus. Okay, I want to talk about something super important. I mean, like, super important. Now, I know you're like, seriously? No way. Jonathan Fibonacci. No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that, and that's not me. But this is a really good, 60 Minutes is one of those, like, when television was good. Now, this is a very important documentary. This little 13-minute, this is a big deal. See this guy here? What's his name? Let's figure out who he is. He's talking about things that are important. Bernie Madoff. No, not that guy.
We still don't know much more about the alleged $50 billion scam.
What's going on? There are some stories that are really important. Sometimes you piss off the wrong guy. You ever do that?
Exactly what happened and who all was involved. But the proof that it happened can be found in the ruined lives of thousands of victims. The one person who knows the most and is willing to talk is Harry Markopolos.
What? Who? Let's respect that nigga.
He sat down with us for his only television interview.
Thank you.
Until a few months ago, Harry Markopolos was
Harry Markopolos.
financial analyst and
He's just an analyst, just hanging out, just chilling out. What's up, nigga?
who most people would never notice.
Loves Jesus.
Modern Greek hero. How you doing?
Like the Tom Petty song.
He enjoys an almost heroic status.
I love him.
Pursued by journalists and movie producers and honored by colleagues.
Honored by Jonathan Fibonojji. There you go. Clap, clap, clap. There you go. Wonderful. A little too orangey for me, but hey, listen.
Thank you. Thank you. Please take your seats.
But he seems uncomfortable with all the attention and knows that he is no hero.
What's up?
I stand before you, a $50 billion failure.
Uh-oh, he's a $50 bill failure.
How many times did you send material to the SEC?
May 2000, October 2001.
Oh, he's mad.
October, November, and December 2005. Then again, June 2007.
Those numbers have been triple checked.
Finally, April 2008.
Holla.
So 5 separate SECs.
What's up, niggas?
And in spite of all of the
In
things
spite
that
of
you
all what happened out there in Durango,
still
Colorado,
a
Jonathan.
disaster.
There's nothing to be proud about in this case. I feel horrible about the result. It's been a total disaster for the victims.
Yeah, victims of Bernie Madoff.
It began a decade ago.
And it
when
began
Markopolos
a
was
decade
working
ago.
For a Boston investment
Okay,
firm.
so boom.
His boss told him that Bernard Madoff,
Uh-oh.
former chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange, was running a huge unregistered hedge fund that was producing
Did you
incredible
know?
returns.
Did you
He
know?
wanted Harry to reverse engineer its trading strategy and revenue streams.
Okay, so here's the deal.
So that the firm could do
You're like, Jonathan Fibonacci, we can go watch that yourself. We don't need it. We don't need for you to tell us about Markopolos. I'm like, well, let me tell you about Markopolos a little bit. Some stories are important. There are some important discussions we need to have. Now, whether you like it or not, make America great again. That's a good slogan. We need to make America great again. And really, whoever you vote for, whichever side, Republicans or Democrats, essentially what you're trying to do when you vote, or when I vote, I'm trying to make America great relative to what I feel is important. Now, one thing that's really important are constitutional rights. I think we can all agree with Jonathan Fibonojji that constitutional rights are important. Ed Snowden's a very big deal. The First Amendment's a really big deal. We're not even talking about Jesus yet. I'm talking about corruption. I'm talking about stories that matter, and how the Bernie Madoff story, and how this story is super, super important. The Durango, Colorado, and how cities deal legally with homeless people. Now, there's two discussions we're going to have. There's a homeless discussion, and then there's how people or cities, communities, neighborhoods, how they legally deal with their homeless problems. And how when people go poor in this country, they lose civil liberties, like constitutional rights. And that's a really big deal. And there are bad judges. I mean, there are some real interesting stories of how women and men face different judges. And what's it like to be a man facing a judge? And well, if you're a woman, they make you literal cakes. And this is Durango, Colorado. And how we don't hear a lot about this because we have a lot of fake news. This story in Durango, Colorado, this is how women are treated by the court system, and how men are treated, and how homelessness and civil cases and civil liberties and biased judges, these things are really important. And judges need to be disbarred. I mean, there are some bad judges, right? I mean, I think so. I mean, I think, there may be my opinion. Like, for over a decade, I was in finance. And there are some bad mortgage people. I was a mortgage broker for over, right at 10 years. I was in the industry about 13, 14, 15 years. And then my license, I just couldn't buy it. My license became too expensive. I'm trying to truncate a lot of regulations. But ultimately what happened with mortgages or mortgage people, principally because of kind of the Bernie Madoff and then the financial crisis and all that kind of happened at once, and 9/11, and this country had several boom, boom, booms. We had 9/11, we had Bernie Madoff, and we had the housing crisis and Dodd-Frank, and how Dodd-Frank was some real-life legislation that impacted real-life people. Like me, Jonathan, my legal name is Jonathan Spears. I'm a comic, I'm a filmmaker, documentarian. I go by the name Jonathan Fibonojji because I moved to Durango, a beautiful town full of wonderful people, just hates poor people. And I experienced homelessness. And then I started getting arrested because, it's really easy to be arrested or get arrested when you're poor. And how homeless people in that discussion, but this is also another discussion on the same par as, say, Ed Snowden. Ed Snowden was for the Fourth Amendment. Now, remember, the Fourth Amendment guarantees citizens, the regular people like you and me, citizens. If you're a citizen of the country, United States of America, Ose can you see, if you're a citizen, you have certain inalienable rights, right? Jonathan Fibonojji, you, Jonathan Spears, Brittany Spears, Aries Spears. If you're a citizen, you have certain inalienable rights. Well, Ed Snowden that's its own story, and that's its own very important discussion. It's on the same par as, say, the Aaron Swartz story. Aaron Swartz story is a wonderful documentary that wasn't seen by too many people, and it's, again, about the Fourth Amendment. But in this country, we don't just have a battle on the poor, we have a battle on the Constitution, and we also have a battle on the Sixth Amendment. What is the Sixth Amendment? The Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees people the right to jury trials, no matter what. And out there in beautiful Durango, Colorado, a beautiful town full of beautiful people, Well, they just decided not to give people jury trials. They thought it would be easier. The women, those judges out there, they thought it'd be easier just to kind of limit the jury trials. So therefore, well, Durango justice is sort of expedited. Well, when you limit jury trials, you also limit evidence. You also limit citizens' rights to voice complaints. The Sixth Amendment is a very big deal. I mean, the right to speak on your behalf in a jury trial with the assistance of an attorney, regardless what the offense is, whether it's trespassing at a at a soup kitchen or whatever else the allegation is. And especially in today's Me Too world, we have to remember these courts, our feminized courts, do not want to have men speaking truth to the Me Too world. And Durango, Colorado showed me so much. And I love Durango, Colorado. I consider it home on a lot of levels. But just because I love a city does not mean that they're not corrupt as fuck. And this guy, Anthony Nacella, he's actually one of the first canaries in the mine where he was denied a jury trial. And he went as far as to go to the ACLU. And the ACLU agreed with him that the city of Durango agreed to revamp its municipal codes. Well, guess what? It sounds good. Guess what? The Durango Herald moved on. Well, Jonathan Fibonojji is reminding Durango, Colorado, that I still have 4 jury trials, and it's been over 2 years, and I can't even get hearings and jury trials. And how I want to have the discussion on a federal record with how Durango treats poor people. Now, I love Jesus, of course. I talk a lot about Jesus, but I want to have a legal discussion with Durango, Colorado. I want to speak about specific things that I saw when I was living in a homeless community. Not as a journalist, but just as a Jonathan who, well, life went boom, and I left my home and took the things that I could carry, the most important things to me, and I brought my camera. And how my own journey has, well, this is so true. We have to protect our souls. Don't gain the world and lose your soul. Now, this picture I took out here in San Francisco. I just moved to San Francisco because I couldn't find work in Durango. It's hard to find work in a town of 17,000 when they didn't get any snow, especially when you start getting arrested all the time. People just call you, well, they call you all kinds of names when you're homeless. Well, right now I want to be called a United States citizen in Durango, Colorado, and I want to tell this story because there are important stories. And there are heroes, regular heroes like this guy.
Latina, for being a respected citizen, one of the most successful businessmen in New York, and certainly one of the most powerful men on Wall Street, you would never suspect him of fraud unless you knew the math.
So, I mean, you're like a math guy, right?
I've taken all the calculus courses from integral calculus to differential calculus, as well as linear algebra, and statistics, both normal and non-normal.
Yeah, so that's just a long way of saying he's super smart. And super smart people don't like to get fucked with. And we certainly don't like corruption. And there's a documentary with this where he's talking about the Madoff story. And Oliver Stone's talking about the Fourth Amendment. And where is Ed Snowden? Well, I want to add to that conversation. I want to talk about corruption on the Sixth Amendment and how cities and counties and countries, cities and towns and municipalities, we're losing the right to have jury trials. And that's a really, really big deal. Have you hugged your Constitution today? John Fibonojji is out. I love Jesus, but sometimes you just got to close out with some... Kind of sounds foreign, like this guy actually thinks citizens have rights. No, I just want to know what love is. I want to know. I gotta take a little time and read my Constitution. No, seriously, like when district attorneys prevent constitutional rights that are inalienable, it's a really big deal. What's going on? Hello, good morning. You're like, Jonathan Fibonojji, will you just go back and talk about stupid things like Russia? Well, we could talk about corruption overseas, but let's talk about corruption in our own country, in our own I think the CIA, when they're supposed to protect, they're supposed to talk about foreign and domestic threats. Well, our courts, who's talking about reforming our courts? And here's a little Fibonacci for the day. Let me kind of put a hard stop on this. Any person who's talking about trying to make America great or make America great again, if part of that strategy is not legal reform, well, it's propaganda. Legal reform and sending criminals to jail, that's a big deal. And then if you're accused of something, whether it's trespassing at a food kitchen in Durango or wherever you're at, imagine if somebody came up to you and accused you of something and you couldn't even answer that in a court of law. And how are cities and courts doing that? I know it's foreign, isn't it? Where's the love, Durango? No, seriously, you do not want to go poor in that city. And why should you care about men's rights? And I'll give you the answer I've given so many times before, and that is you should only care about men's rights if you have children. And if you have sons, or if you will have sons. Can you imagine if in the year 2023, your son is accused of something and he couldn't answer that accusation with evidence and a lawyer in court because they call him, well, whatever they want to call him. In Durango, they say that I'm a little foreign. Well, it's Fibonacci. You can just call me Jonathan, though. I want to have a legal discussion in Durango, Colorado. I'm going to disbar at least 4 district attorneys. And I just want to put evidence on a court record, a federal court record. And I want the 6th Amendment that the Constitution gives me. Why? Because, well, that's the Word of God. That's my homeless Bible from Manna Mountain. A homeless Bible from Manna Mountain. That's Psalms 117. You haven't read your Bible until you've been kicked out of a food kitchen in Durango, Colorado in January. With no blankets except just the community, and it's more of a neighborhood up there, of just poor people who love each other, hate each other, fight, just like any neighborhood. Let's talk about Durango. Let's talk about the 6th Amendment. This is how they do in San Francisco. I may start one of these out there. Fighting poverty and injustice. Remember when, I think it was Jesus that said, feed my sheep, and well, Jesus talks a lot about injustice and wicked people, and wicked judges, and slander and libel. And how today's Me Too world is just really propaganda. Feminist propaganda. All right, you guys be good. James Marshall, if you ever hear me talk about James, my dear James Marshall, he's the district attorney. He's the 2nd DA in Durango, Colorado that's been assigned to me. They try to Baker Act me, which means it's just kind of a fancy way of denying people a jury trial by saying they don't like their opinions. I'm like, I'm a comic, nigga. I may even wear glasses. I might have my jacket. All right, James Marshall. You have a good day. Thank you for taking this journey with me.